Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. After a little bit of a break, sorry, it's been a very busy start to the year, but we're kicking 2025 off with a banger of an episode. We are joined once again by the great Frederik, who is the co-founder and CEO of Sourceful. So Frederik, thanks a lot for joining us again.
Thank you very much, Leo. Nice to be here. So happy to be invited.
Yeah, and before we get into Sourceful, why don't you tell us how your year's going so far? What's 2025 been like for you thus far?
Yeah, it's going great. Actually, this week I'm extremely bullish. Of reasons I also maybe cannot disclose in this episode. We'll maybe look out for news in the next couple of weeks. But a lot of things have been happening. We've launched new products. We launched a new product last week. We are growing the network, and we also start to form like a company culture and like actually sort of forming the base of something that is growing big. I'm a big believer in I would say the people. Those are the ones that create a company. So it's not just a vision. You need people that execute it. So yeah, it's been great so far, and I'm like can't wait. Every day it's like, yeah, let's do this. So
yeah. I was saying before we jumped onto the episode that you're looking very good as well. Like you're in really good shape. Is that part of this company culture thing as well?
Oh yes, it is. So we actually have that in our core principles, which like we do have like a core thesis of working principles, and you should train at least. The aim should be every day. So the whole office, we're 6 people in the office now, goes often just before lunch, 1 hour to the gym. Often we go together and we push each other, and like every day, every single day. So that's actually part of being able to be as like maximizing productivity in the team. Physical fitness goes well hand in hand with mental fitness. It's just that simple.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the idea of you guys going to the gym together as a team as well. Not only is that like, I guess, team building, but it's like everything you do as a team, you're going to do better than if you do it individually. And then, as you said, the work you do in the gym is going to help you be more productive at Sourceful. So
yeah, you need to find the competitive edge in everything that you do, and also trying to be better each day. So I'm also a big fan in stoicism, like and trying to do like every day. You should think about how can I do something today which makes me better tomorrow. That's kind of philosophy that we're trying to form in the company. So, but these are important things, but I mean the most important part is having a kick-ass product and a market fit. So
100%. Look, all of those compounding marginal gains along the way are going to help you get there. So I love that you are focusing on those things as well. So look, let's just kind of set the scene for this episode. For anybody that hasn't either had an overview of Sourceful or hasn't watched the first one that we did actually 6 months ago now, go back and listen to that one first. But a lot, as you said, has happened since then. You've even had a little bit of a rebranding, some new hardware, some new software. But maybe before we go into it, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, just in case people are listening and don't know what Sourceful is, could you give us a really quick introduction?
Yeah, so we're building the largest decentralized energy network. And what we're trying to change is to empower users, homeowners, to own their share of both data and, I would say, control and participation in the grid. Changing them from consumers to actually active participants and rewarding them with tokens. More or less what you do with Helium or any DeepIn project, that you own assets, and we empower people to have these assets and actually being able to have passive income. But we are indeed solving a real world problem by this. So that's us.
In terms of how revenue is produced by the network, has anything changed since we spoke 6 months ago? Have there been any like really obvious paths to revenue or customer segments that you think are the real low-hanging fruit now going into 25?
I think that, I mean, the core thesis is still there, that we focus on building the network, the infrastructure. And I think our story has evolved, I would say, as we sort of find this product market fit. This, I guess, is for every company in an early stage, there is always a trial and error and trying to find that market fit. Our market fit will be in providing flexible resources. That is whatever decentralized energy resource, solar PV, batteries, EV chargers, whatever, for a less cost to the utilities or grid operators than they can do themselves. That's, I would say, the core thesis. So that's still what we're building, the connectivity. But there are, I think, lower hanging fruits, as you asked, that you went into, and also a link to the growth. So one of these is data. So data, we believe, will be a low hanging fruit. More or less, data will be a byproduct of if you're connecting things, you will be gathering data. It's that simple. Yeah. So this will probably be the first part that we will be monetizing, I believe. We'll see how it plays out. It depends on which pilot cases that start earlier than others, but that's what I believe.
Okay. And we don't have to go too deep on this, but who do you think will be buying that data, and what does the data look like?
I think that the first buyers, will be companies that are working with grid optimization and doing AI predictions and so. And there are a couple of examples of this, that there are companies working purely with predicting what happens in the grid in the future. The utilities, grid operators, they want to know, it could be one thing, how does this suburban area look in 10 years in terms of power usage, and trying to predict that. They need to be able to predict it because building new power lines takes time and is super costly. So having a prediction is important. But how do you make that prediction if you don't even know the status of what is happening today? So that is probably a low-hanging fruit to sort of strengthen these kind of predictions. So it's very much linked to the AI models and so. And then the other low-hanging fruit, I would say, the utilities. From the utilities perspective, and you might already, you have your utility and you're a consumer. If you have solar PV, or if you have an EV charger or battery or whatever. So even if you still just sell and buy your energy, just as a normal person do, the simple thing that you want maybe to know when you get the bill from your energy company, how much of the energy I used for cooking or charging my car. And you might still pay the same, but that information is a valuable information from the utilities perspective to sort of have as an add-on in their competition. So any utility company, they play in a competitive space. So in order to sort of keep you as a customer or be more attractive than the others, they can compete on the lowest energy price. They're more or less the only thing they can compete on because we don't care too much. But if they can add products on top of this, which actually makes you a more loyal customer and you also get some added benefit, they need that data. So that's also part of what I believe will happen.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and that, as you said before, actually, that data is not readily available to those companies, the utility companies at the moment. So you'd be offering them something new, and it just sounds like the whole thesis is bringing flexibility around these quite archaic grid systems, which is exactly what needs to happen. Awesome. Thanks for that overview. Before we move on, I wanted to take a step back and go to the helium conversation, because last time we spoke, one of the big upcoming milestones we were looking at was Sourceful joining the Helium ecosystem. We even got through the helium voting, the HIP passed. Yeah. And in the end, you didn't join as a subDAO. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you about what happened there, what are the implications, maybe the positives and the negatives, because there are both sides to it, right?
Oh, yeah. Long story, you can keep it very, let's start with the super short story. And the super short story is that we thought this was a jolly good idea before the summer. We worked together with the Helium Foundation, the founding team and the foundation. I would say the Helium Foundation believed that they were evolving into the networks of networks and growing to something bigger than just IoT and mobile. So they're let's grow the pie together. And we fit very well into this space. We worked with physical infrastructure. We were able to also show that we were doing dual mining. We could leverage the same hardware and both networks. Yeah, and we're a smaller project in the start, so we obviously wanted a community, and we wanted to be like, also if we can link ourselves to the original and largest Deepin project out there, like that actually sort of made Deep into what it is, that could be a very, very good acceleration for us. So that was the basis. We worked furlough with this during the summer. We did loads of hours in the Discord and the Helium AMAs and all that. I think around Singapore, around that time, I still do remember like the first day in Singapore, Abhay had a presentation speaking about Helium version 3. And there was this energy logo, IoT logo, mobile logo. And like, this is a network of networks. The next day, the story shifted. Then it was Helium version 3.0.1. And bam, I think the sentiment changed at that point. And things are I would say, things change in the back of Helium, I think, from investor sides and so on. I would say that let's focus on the core area. Let's focus on Wi-Fi, like mobile and wireless, and becoming like really, really strong in this. This confuses the market. I think that was core of the thesis. And at the same time, so it's not that we got pushed out, not at all. We could have pushed this through. We had the community with us. And we had a lot of believers in the community, and we actually got a vote that passed. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make sense to push yourself into a network when the network might not want you. So that's one perspective. And also, we also came to the conclusion that, well, this is extremely complicated. The more we started to think about tokenomics, the HNT subDAO score model, how we're going to sort of fit into this ecosystem with the HNT supply that is its own beast, and the IoT and the mobile and different treasuries, and like it became very, very complex. We did a lot of simulations on this, but I would say it all boiled down that no one understands this. Like there's a very, very few people that actually understands it. And I would say even they say it's complex and, well, it's hard. So it made it hard to sort of justify, like, why make something that should be quite easy so extremely complex. Yeah. And at the same time, during the fall, when we started deviating from both ends, Helium had a fantastic idea, like Firabe, Chris from Helium Foundation, Helium community, I would say. He proposed HIP 666, which later became HIP 138, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, going back to single token, HNT. At the same time, that was sort of like, this is not the track that we're taking. And it was a very, very mutual decision from us and the Helium Foundation and the Helium community, I would say. So, yeah, we deviated. We didn't make too much fuss about it. We made a blog post. We informed people in the Helium community and our own community. But, like, no big fuss. This was all good. We gained extremely lot of value from the partnership with Helium. We are still partners with Helium. And Helium has invested in Sourceful. Yeah, so we actually have Helium on our cap table, which is really cool. So, I mean, the partnership with Helium is like, that's solid, and we have a good connection. And we are still doing dual mining and such. So it's just that, like, we say the value accrual and the project itself is doing its own thing, more or less, with like less complexity.
Yeah, and in some ways, it's almost like you've got the best of both worlds, because you've made the strong partnership with Helium, who can be really, really useful in driving your growth. Well, you made the contact with the Helium community members and got on their radar. And one of the things that I was slightly not concerned about, but one factor going into it was, yes, what's happening with the Helium kind of ecosystem? If there's uncertainty about the tokenomics there, then for any subDAO joining, there'd be uncertainty. So yeah. It's already a difficult task to build the world's largest decentralized energy network. Why add that complexity on there? And this way you get the positives of the partnership, but you also get autonomy over your tokenomics. So it could actually be a win-win for everybody here.
Yeah. I believe so. I think it's a win-win for everyone. And perhaps we did a little bit, like people might have been confused, but I mean, in the overall scheme of things, we both learned a lot, especially us. We got really a kickstart into, I would say, yeah, it was really good. So
and the dual mining still going ahead is a really cool thing as well. I think that it's a big trend in deep in general, but it really makes sense. So that's good to know as well. Let's focus on what's happening then right now and sort of going forward. I know that you mentioned that you brought out some new software and hardware. We've got a new app, some new devices. Let's talk about that and how people can get involved.
Yeah, so we've always like the main challenge with I would say any deep in project is that you often need to involve some kind of hardware, and you need to sell hardware, and you need to, that's a challenge that everyone has, I would say. And you also focus on, if you're a deep in project, often you're focusing on crypto native people, and like there's a limited supply of those. Like probably we'll see more now after Trump, but anyhow. So that's one challenge, and our challenge has been that like how many people like, even if we know that many people do have solar PV and batteries, and it's growing in exponential pace, so that's good. But there's still like most people don't. Most people live in cities and apartments, and like how do we involve everyone and make it simple? So one part of this is like let's also focus on not just the energy generation part. Let's focus on the data and being able to involve everyone. This makes sense. We made a ZAP. It's a P1 meter. In the UK, I think they are not that common, if they even do exist, but it's a standard in the European Union. So there should be approx like 100 to 180 million compatible meters. And when I say compatible, they might not 100% be compatible, because everyone knows a standard might not always be exactly. But I would say in the Nordic countries, in the Netherlands, in Portugal, and I also believe in Austria, they have been rolled out on a quite large scale. So every new smart meter, like your utility meter, that has a small customer interface, it's called a P1 port. It's the same port that you find on old telephone jacks, like not a network cable, but a 6-pin network cable, RG12 it's called. That's the format of that standard. And this is a genius little standard, because if you just plug in your device, you can draw a little bit amount of power from your utility meter, about 150, 180 amps, but just enough to power a small little device, such as the ZAP. And so you don't need like external power, and you get every 10 seconds, you get all the data you need from the utility meter, the exact same data the utility company bills you for. So like this is a trusted source.
Yeah.
So, and the utility company, they often catch your data every hour or so, and they care about the billing part. That's what they want. And what we're doing is catching the data every 10 seconds. That's how the standard is, like every 10 seconds updates. So we can almost get a real-time update. And this is really cool, because from the user perspective, you can actually directly now plug that in, look in the app, and you can fire up your oven, and you will directly see how much it is consuming, just with a 10-second lag. So it's a very good way of getting insights. You get every phases as well. So if you have a three-phase system, which is very common, you can do load balancing. So in instance, you have this information and you connect your car, and you might not want to blow your fuses. This is also what you need to sort of enable this kind of smartness. But this unlocks everyone with a utility meter.
Yeah.
And we can sell it very, very price competitive. We have a really good manufacturer. These are made actually in Sweden. Locally produced, developed, and it's a white labeled product. Absolutely. But we work very closely together with the team, and it's been deployed, I would say, for thousands of customers in another project. So it's a trusted hardware. And it's about 59 euros is the pre-sale that we do now. And we will reward the users. So we will actually pay out, at this point, points, but you will get tokens for sharing your data. Same thing as Demo is doing, but this is instead of your car, we catch the data from your utility meter, and we will be able to derive value for that. We'll reward you. And you will also get more insights. Like, people buy these products already on the market. There are like numerous like P1 meters on the market. And often they are subscription based. Yeah. So you need to pay to sort of get some kind of historic data or more insights. We'll provide that for free and reward you. So we flip that model upside down. So I believe this will be a killer product. We haven't yet just started the marketing properly. We released it just last week, and we're really trying to push this now. So that's one part of the growth.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a really accessible entry point as well. How much did you say the device was? 69 euros?
59 euros.
Even better. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody is going to have, a meter they can plug that device into.
More or less in Europe. Obviously, there are probably some that might not be compatible, but there are, in some cases, an adapter that you need to have. Yeah. You can buy an adapter. We'll sell those as well. But the majority, I would say, of utility meters, it's just plug it in. I think that will be actually a good product. And what we're also doing in terms of growth, what we have seen is that mobile app, we just released the Android version. That was just a couple of days ago. The iOS app has been open for 2 to 3 weeks. Well, also quite recently, I would say. But we're like, the base version is there. You can use it for onboarding purposes. So it's more like an onboarding app at the moment. But now when the app exists, we push really hard on adding features. So this will be the main thing that we will be doing, like adding features that are valuable for the end users. And also making it possible for users to connect their already existing cloud-connected like APIs. Yeah. So we started with SolarEdge and Huawei, which are 2 very big inverter brands, like totaling 8 million installations globally. If you have any of these brands, it might already be connected. And you can onboard without buying any hardware. Just download the app and you're up and running. We'll give you smaller rewards for the API connection because it's crappy data. Like you won't get that good data, and we won't be able to build the virtual power plant on that. It will just be a data play. But if you have the gateway, you will get more rewards. If you have the gateway plus API, you will get a multiplier on that rewards. Because we can validate the data. We get the data from 2 sources. Yeah. If you have the gateway plus the API plus a P1 meter, that's the golden standard. Because we have 3 sources of data, really good validation, which is I would say, every Deepin project has this. How do we know that this asset is actually real? How do we validate this? So it's not just anyone gaming. If we have 3 sources of data from different places, it will at least be significantly harder to game the system. So that's how we sort of approach this area. So, and that's what we're already doing. So we have some sites that already have like all 3 options in one household, and that gives an extremely good view, actually.
Interesting. Do you see that the results of the data coming in deviate a lot between the 3 devices, or are they all quite sort of similar?
They're quite similar. Really? You get, talking about the gateway catches data every second from your inverter or battery. So like you get a very, very granular data, and you get loads of metadata on frequency, whatever. From the APIs, you get more or less like a data point every 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah, it is the same, but I mean, the data is very different if you look at it in detail. But they are, I would say it's the same data. Yeah. And there's some simple, I would say, cases, which just to explain, if you have only solar panels, like you have solar panels on your roof, and then one simple thing, you might want to not sell energy if the price is negative. It's like that simple thing. Yeah. In order to do that, well, you need to know the total consumption of your home. Like you might be cooking tea at the same time the sun is shining, and you like how do you know that you're like how can the system know that you're cooking tea? So the P1 meter solves that problem. Then we're able to compare and actually see that actually control, I would say, the solar inverter, that you're not pushing out energy if you don't want to push out energy. So it unlocks values. The same thing with EV charging. Like if you have the P1 meter, you know exactly the load on each phase. So you can say that, okay, I don't want to blow the fuse. I have fuses like maybe there are 16 amps or 20 amps, and I'm charging my car, and then you start cooking your tea at the same time. And you don't want to blow your fuses. If you can control the EV charger, which often they're totally controllable by an API, and you know the total consumption. That's just a problem it's just code that solves that problem. And these are the kind of solutions that these devices unlock, that the data itself unlocks things that are really valuable, I would say, for most users. Amazing. And the alternatives are often very expensive. So if you load balancing, go to an electrician and ask for that, and you will have to pay anywhere between 300 maybe up to 600 euros for like an installation of an energy meter and some like hardware. That's often like what you end up with. So
and Sourceful's paying people in token rewards for doing the same thing with no subscription charge. Amazing. It's quite a powerful proposition there. Cool. We're coming up to the end, Frederik. Let's wrap up with sort of looking ahead in 2025. What are some of the key goals and targets that you have, and what are some of the metrics that you're going to be using to track your success this year?
Yeah, so that's actually, I would say in concrete numbers, I probably wouldn't say them out loud here because we are still working on, I would say, a couple of milestones. But I would say that we want to see a significant growth in number of DERs. And I would say plus 10K, like 10,000 connected DERs this year.
Like a distributed energy resource. So
yes, sorry for...
A solar panel connected to the network.
Yeah, it could be batteries and solar panels. Those I would say are the most common things that we look at now. But we, as I said, like we're also expanding into utility meters, and we are most likely going to call them a DER as well, just for the simplicity, even if they are actually not an energy resource per se. But about 10K, I would say, would be like one milestone before we definitely release the token, because we're still pre-token generation event. And I would say also in terms of community, we are about 1.3K or something like that in the Discord server. I would probably want to see like at least 10K organic growth members before we have enough traction in the community to know that we're bringing like real value and we can release the token. So we do have a point system now. So like as in every project, might be good to be earlier than later, but that's just but anyhow, you're not able to trade these points with a token yet, but we'll trade the points. They will be redeemable for a claim on the token when we generate it. We believe this will happen in Q3 this year. But a lot will depend, I would say, on the growth metrics. So could be earlier, could be a little bit later, but definitely this year, I would say. And that has to do with, we believe this will be a good year to launch any token. So
100%. And so just basically waiting until you've reached that little bit more traction in terms of growth of the project, the community, and when you feel you're ready, probably towards the late half of this year, the later of this year, you look at launching the token.
Yeah, we need to set up a couple of, I would say, demand side needs to be happening. It won't be on chain directly. It will be like just proving that we have a business and we can actually invoice customers. But that needs to happen as well. So we are at this moment, we are working with partnerships, and like there are some news that I might not be able to disclose now because it needs to be in a proper order. But let's say that we are working with partners that are already on the market in the energy sector. So we'll likely see that we'll have some interesting partnerships, I would say. So all these pieces need to tie together, and at the same time we need also to push marketing. Like, I mean, you start the project. We're at this point we're 7 people in the team, and we have one that is working with marketing. That's one very stressed person at this moment. So I think that's how when you start something and you're people that are all engineers, and this is a learning for me. Like everything in Web3 and probably everything in whatever you're doing is marketing. You need that. And I've realized that we need to spend some resources on that. So that will be something that will spin up. So if you're looking at this and want a marketing role, just reach out.
There you go, everyone listening. There's a job opening right there. Anybody else who isn't necessarily looking for a job or wants to get involved, goes to the Sourceful website, have a look at the hardware, have a look at downloading the app, get involved. Now's an awesome time to. And Frederik, it sounds like you guys are taking a really sensible approach, right? Let's get everything in order first, and then we'll think about token launch later down the line. I think it makes a lot of sense.
We don't want to end up in a situation when we like the token price just crashes and like we want to think and do this properly, I would say, and it is still a utility token, so it needs to be something that people understand and actually can derive some value from, and it should not be, I would say, too speculative. Like 100%. Some aspect of that might exist, who knows? But it should be, I would say, clear of what utility we're trying to, like, we want to bring value in the most effective way. And it's just cutting, I would say, parts of the value chain to the end users. That's like a really effective way to do that.
Yeah.
How are we even going to do this on the traditional finance system? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We could, but it would be extremely more expensive and harder. Now we can distribute value every day programmatically.
Isn't it? It kind of opens up these possibilities to compete in sectors that otherwise you would need hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in funding to compete in.
Yeah.
It makes a ton of sense. I love that you're focusing on the fundamentals before anything else. That's very important, and kind of ties in with the final question for closing it off. Last time I asked you what the biggest challenges were of scaling a Deepin. Let's flip that around to a more positive framing. What should Deepin founders focus on to maximize the chances of success when they're building their project?
I think that that's actually a good question, because there are so many things to focus on. I would say that from like, have something that actually makes sense. I think make sure that what you are building is something that actually makes sense from, I would say, the demand side. That should be the main focus. And why I say this is that I believe that there are loads of Deepin projects out there, not without mentioning anyone or anything, that have started from the other end. And you can probably sell a project and find growth, but it will die. I'm sure of it. Like, if you don't have figured out a real and proper business model without tokens, without Web3, it will eventually not work. So you need to find that. So I think that should be the focus, and also use the Deepin flywheel and I would say the Web3 part as both an accelerator and just for what it is. It's technology to make things extremely more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's also like, if you focus too much on that, like, you might forget of what you're actually building, and that could be an advice. Yeah.
100%. We love fundamentals here at Future Networks. Focus on the fundamentals. Build an actual business that's going to have clients, customers, revenues coming in. That's the most important thing. So wise words there, Frederik. And with that, I think let's wrap up this session. I've really enjoyed hearing about your growth. Looking forward to seeing what you guys achieve in 25. I think it's going to be an awesome year for you guys. And thanks a lot for joining us again.
Thank you very much, Leo. Thanks.